With me now is Professor John Quelch, Dean of the Herbert Business School at the University of Miami. John, we're talking about the recently issued White House vaccine mandates. The president and his sweeping executive orders instruct all businesses with more than 100 employees to require workers to be immunized or undergo weekly testing. That's all part of his emergency temporary standard. John, what does that mean for businesses, both large and small?
Well, I think it's important because it gives the leaders in businesses cover to implement what I think many business leaders wish to implement, and that is a vaccine requirement for their workforces, with, of course, the appropriate medical and religious exemptions where applicable.
So do you believe that this is what we're going to see, vaccination requirements for employees becoming part of the norm?
I think it is going to be part of the norm, and I think you actually see it in across the country, including in many states that do not have statewide compulsory mask mandates. For example, businesses are taking the lead in terms of requiring their workers, and in some cases their subcontractors who work on their property to be vaccinated.
I want to get to the federal component in just a moment, but still having to do with the private sector. We know that vaccines are free because the government has paid for them, but what about the weekly testing? Does that at some point become cost prohibitive for businesses that then maybe in a roundabout way forces employers to require the vaccines for employees who still haven't been vaccinated?
Well, in some cases, it's reported that businesses are themselves not covering the full cost of the tests among unvaccinated employees as a further incentive to those employees to be vaccinated. But there's no doubt that the inconvenience associated with, say, biweekly testing is motivating a significant number of people to bite the bullet, as it were, and get vaccinated.
John, the president's executive order requiring all federal workers to get vaccinated without an opt-out for testing. Is this a model for states to begin to adopt? We're already seeing pushback from more than a dozen Republican governors.
Certainly, it's a model. I mean, obviously, the federal government cannot insist that every state impose a similar regulation, but by setting an example at the federal level, I think that's going to aid certain governors in terms of their ability to perhaps push harder at the state level.
Some of the criticism, John, has focused on the president's tone as he voiced frustration with Americans refusing to get their shots. How much does tone matter when it comes to convincing people to change their minds? You know this because you're in the field of business.
Absolutely, and I think that tone is important here. There is obviously increasing impatience with the number of people who have still stubbornly declined to be vaccinated. And I think that it relates a little bit to the confusion at the CDC over the mask mandate as well. If I can just conflate mask mandates and vaccine mandates for a moment, the CDC had to backtrack in terms of its taking away the requirement that masks be worn in public in July, having relaxed its requirements or recommendations in June. The CDC obviously believed that once the vaccine was available, most people in the United States would take the vaccine, and therefore the mask mandate or mask recommendation would not be so much a necessity. They were surprised, I'm sure, by the number of people who have declined to take the vaccine. Now, from a tone point of view, it's understandable that there's increasing frustration, but you're not going to get people over the finish line by badgering them or ridiculing them or shaming them. We have to relentlessly pursue arguments that are based on fact and in science.
John, Republican Governor Brian Kemp, even before the president finished speaking yesterday, signaled court challenges to the White House rules, calling the orders blatantly unlawful overreach. Do you think that this emergency temporary standard will survive legal challenges?
Well, the legal challenges are definitely going to come. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, so I can't opine intelligently on the likely outcome here. But it's just another reflection of the fact, unfortunately, that the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates have become a political issue. And that's evident today in Kentucky, where we see the legislature, the Republican legislature, pushing back hard against the Democratic governor.
Dean John Quelch, Dean of the Herbert Business School at the University of Miami, thank you so much for being with us and for your insights today.
My pleasure.